For the roll call, Commissioner Booker,
I am here.
Commissioner Harrington,
I'm here. Sorry about that.
no worries. Commissioner Sharma,
Here.
Commissioner Ziedler,
I'm here.
and Chair White.
I am here. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
And actually, before we proceed, I forgot to read the House rules. So if I can do that really quick before the first item. Commissioners, staff, and meeting participants, thank you for joining us this evening for the October 6, 2021 Monte Sereno Site and Architectural Commission meeting. Before the meeting begins, I would like to point out a few things to assist the commission members, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in this meeting. Commissioners, please keep your microphones muted until you wish to speak. For this commission meeting, we are using Zoom to host the meeting. At the bottom of the Zoom client, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues, such as being unable to hear a commissioner speaking. Please use the raised hand if you would like to be recognized and enabled to speak to the commission by the chairperson. Comments in the chat feature will not be part of the public record. For the public to comment under oral communication or any agenda item, in addition to using the raised hand feature, emails can be submitted to the city planner, limited to 350 words, and they will be read into the record. This limit is set to adhere to the typical 3-minute allowance. Only attendees using the Zoom application can use the raised hand option to comment. Participation from a telephone will allow for listening only and does not allow for any feedback. And finally, because we are not all in the same room, all votes at this meeting will be taken by roll call. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Perkins, very much. Okay, so we're going to start with, we've done roll call. We're going to do orders of the day, and let's entertain the motion that we need to accomplish in order to comply with having this meeting by way of video conferencing for COVID. So I'm going to move that by minute order, we have determined that the governor has declared a statewide state of emergency regarding COVID-19 pandemic, and that COVID-19 creates an imminent safety risk to Site and Architectural Commission members and other potential attendees of Site and Architectural Commission meetings. And we authorize the conduct of this meeting be made by way of teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953. Open parens, E, close parens. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right, Madam Planner, will you please do a roll call on voting?
Yes. Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Chair White.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this is an opportunity for people who are present in our audience to comment about any matter that is not on the agenda that they wish the Site and Architecture Commission to be aware of. If you'll use the raise hand feature, I'll know to call on you if you're here on one of those matters. Seeing none, we're going to close oral communications for the day. Ms. Perkins, are there any written communications independent of what you forwarded to us today by email or the other day by email?
We had received 2 written communications on 2 different projects on the agenda tonight. I can read those into the record as each of those items come up for discussion.
Right, and those have already been emailed to us, and I think we've seen those, so thank you very, very much. Okay, so we'll close written communications and then move on to approval of the minutes for our September 1 meeting. I hope, I know Heather was absent, but has everybody else had an opportunity to review those? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve those?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. And Ms. Perkins, can you do a roll call on that, please?
Yes, Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Abstain. I wasn't there at the meeting.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Chair White.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, before we move to the public hearing, we have two items, well, really 5 items on our agenda tonight. I am going to ask a question. I want to verify what Ms. Perkins represented to me a moment ago. I'm going to ask that Stephanie Massey in our audience be allowed to speak. And my question for you, Stephanie, is what project are you here on in terms of the agenda? Is it the Los Gatos Saratoga Road project, or the Ridgecrest project, or the tree removal on any of those? If you guys could unmute her mic and give her an opportunity to speak, I'd love to hear from her so I know to recuse myself.
Steve?
Yes, is it Steve? Hello.
Yeah, you know, I'm using my my wife's computer, so her name's popping up, but it's actually her husband.
That's good. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are you here on, bud?
We are for the Los Gatos Saratoga Highway 9 project.
Okay. So for everybody's information, I've done work for Massey Construction, and as a result, I think there is an inherent conflict. It's unfair for me to evaluate that particular project, given my past representation of the applicant's contractor. And so I will recuse myself for that matter when it comes forward, and I will hand over the reins to Vice Chair Ms. Harrington. For all of you waiting for the important stuff at home. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
All right. With that done, let's go forward with the first item that I actually can consider, and ask Ms. Perkins, excuse me, to introduce the first item on our agenda tonight.
Thank you. This is an application for a site development permit and a tree removal permit. The site development permit includes demolition of the existing single-story house and construction of a new 5,217 square foot 2-story house with an attached garage and a 1,200 square foot accessory dwelling unit in the basement at 16363 Ridgecrest Avenue. And the application includes a request to remove 3 coast live oak trees, 1 olive tree, and 1 Monterey pine tree that sit within the footprint of the proposed home. And as mentioned earlier, we did receive an email from some neighboring property owners that I will read into the record at this time. The email is from residents of Villa Bonita, and they're looking forward to the beautiful new home in our neighborhood. We, of course, are concerned about the impact of construction, and we would like to point out in the public record that Villa Bonita is a privately owned and maintained street. There is no legal access to the subject property on or over Villa Bonita, and that there should be no vehicles, construction, or otherwise accessing the property from Villa Bonita. And the letter is signed by 3 property owners at 18471 Villa Bonita, 18451 Villa Bonita, and 18431 Villa Bonita. And this concludes the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Commissioners, does anybody have questions for our planner? All right, seeing none, we're going to open this up to public comment, and we ordinarily start with our applicant. Is there somebody here on behalf of the applicant that wants to speak to this particular project? If so, if you could use the raise hand feature, we'll know to call on you, please. All right. Where is it? Trying to scroll. Sorry, folks. All right. Mr. and Ms. Share, I see it is.
Hello,
Here.
can you hear?
Yes,
me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Architectural Commission members. My name is Hayes Scher. I am the architect for the project in front of you today. I'll keep it short. We saw an opportunity to do a nice modern home on a 1-acre site. We tried to detail the home in as sympathetic a manner as possible to the surrounding neighborhood, and also tried to conceal much of the mass of the home as it steps down the hillside. One of our driving forces was to try to express the home as a two-story expression as seen from our neighbors to the west, and also try to keep our footprint of disturbance as close to the public street as possible. Happy to answer any questions you might have. One other thing I'll point out is that our setbacks are taken very generously. So what you see as a front yard setback along our western property is currently the side yard setback. And because of planning's determinations, we have made that also a front yard for the purposes of distance calculation. So our home has greater setbacks than most homes in the neighborhood. The home complies with all other zoning, FAR, and other development statistics. Happy to answer any further questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask the obvious question. Is any of the staging for construction of this home planning to occur on Via Bonita?
No, that's not intended to be the case. We knew that was a private road, so we stayed away from it. There's also quite a bit of vegetation down there, so we're going to keep it from off of Ridgecrest.
Great. Thank you so much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant's representative? All right, no questions. Well done. Okay, this is an opportunity for anybody else in the public that wants to speak to this particular project. Again, if you'll use the raise hand feature, I'll know to call on you and we can hear from you. Anybody else? All right, Dr. Coe.
So, hello, can you hear me?
We can now, yes. Thank you, Doctor.
So we are the neighbors to the immediate west. We're probably the property that's most impacted by this plan. While the owner did show us an interim plan, I don't know that we've had the opportunity to look at the final plan. He indicated he was going to make some changes. We do know that the plan does have some blockage of view from the kitchen of one of our accessory structures relative to the structure that's there. There's also trees and vegetation that may or may not be removed that kept us from seeing clearly the view of the
story pole.
The story poles from our backyard. So we don't know how overbearing that's going to be because we don't know if those trees are going to stay or are going to be removed. And so, and one of the things we also were led to believe that there was some sort of preclusion on that property from building a two-story home. I don't know if that's true or not, but this was told to us back in 1994 when we bought the property at 16379 Ridgecrest where we live. My wife wants to add a comment or two as well.
Yeah, I was just curious if any site and architecture members came onto our property at all to see what the impact would be of this house.
It's not really a question and answer period, but I will tell you this, as commissioner, I did not go on the property because I didn't know about any of your concerns because they were never communicated in writing to us before tonight.
Well, unfortunately, I was out of town for two weeks and we didn't realize this was coming up for the hearing so quickly. We got this letter while we were gone and we literally arrived from out of the country yesterday afternoon. So.
Understood.
I will say that I did drive by the property earlier today and I'm sorry.
I did leave a message with the site and architecture or the city planner, but she never called me back. I was asking about the proposed changes that were supposed to happen, but she never called me back. I left a message about 2.5 weeks ago.
Before we left.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's give the commissioners a chance to answer your first question, which is, has anybody been on your property? And I suspect the answer to that's probably no, or you would know about that. We normally knock on doors and let people know that we're looking. Commissioners, is anybody visit the Coe's property in relationship to this particular application?
I just drove by and looked from the street.
Okay.
Same here. I drove by earlier today and the elevation from the street, you can't really tell or see what the impact would be, obviously. So
I agree.
So just to be clear, I'm unmuted, right? Just to be clear, we're talking about the codes. You live at the parcel C. If we're looking at C 1.1, that's your land. So if you're facing the driveway, you're to the right.
Well, I don't have a visual of the diagram that you're discussing, so I can't confirm that.
Okay, all of the plans, codes are online and you can review those there. So, all right, independent of answering the question about whether or not we've been on your land, which I think the answer to which is no from everybody. Are there any other questions or comments that you guys had in relationship to this application?
Well, the biggest thing is that we didn't realize this was coming up so quickly, and Marlene's phone call wasn't answered. The notification was sent to us, and while we were out of the country, literally. And so this is a surprise that this meeting is happening tonight. I didn't realize that was on the agenda. Otherwise, we would have been better prepared. And so I think the appropriate thing is we have a lot of concerns. We would like to invite Site and Architecture to look at the vista and how it might be effective from our land to have a better impact on this. We're happy to review this online. The owner was kind enough to actually show us the plans, but we believe that these were interim plans. So what we'd like to see is perhaps a deferral on the final decision until we've had a chance to really fully digest the impact, which we had not. We only really learned about this about 3 or 4 weeks ago when the story polls, shortly after the story polls went up. So those are our concerns.
Okay, I appreciate those. Thank you both very much. I don't know what the questions were for the planner, and Ms. Perkins is available here tonight. And to the extent that she can respond to those, perhaps we can do that. But I'll tell you, my opinion at least is not to defer this matter. Everybody got notice of it. I appreciate that it's a limited clock under the statutory scheme, but that's the way it is. We can't avoid that. And in fairness to the applicant, they've done everything correct to present this to us tonight. So, we have a 3-minute limit ordinarily on each member of the public's opportunity to speak, but maybe you can ask the questions that you have for the planner, and we can have that dialogue briefly in no longer than 3 minutes, and see if we can get your questions answered before we consider this matter, if that's fair to you guys. Do you know what those questions are?
Well, we have some questions, but we disagree with the fairness of it, that's for sure. But we will do the best we can within the constraints that you have imposed upon us.
I haven't imposed anything on you. There's a statutory scheme that has to be followed here. I'm not king. I'm just chair of this commission. So if you have questions for the planner, I would appreciate if you would ask those of her now, and we'll afford you 3 minutes to get those answered.
Yeah, well, when I say you, that was more of a general you, not you and any individual, but you meaning the whole process. So what is the actual distance in feet from the property line to the west? Or maybe it's more to, I don't know what the property line between our property, if you consider that west or south. It's kind of both, southwest, I think. What is the distance in feet from the house from our property?
So first, if I could just really quickly apologize, I did not receive, I believe I had spoke with Mrs. Coe a couple of weeks ago, but I did not receive a follow-up message. So I do apologize if one was left and what was not received. But the setback from your property line to the house is 35 feet at the closest point, and that's at the garage, at the side of the garage. As noted by the applicant, we did consider that to be a front yard setback on the flag lot, whereas typically it might be considered a side yard setback, which would have a 20-foot setback. So there is an increased setback because of the flag lot and the unique angles that provides for. We were a little conservative on determining where the front yard is.
Mhm.
I see. Are the existing, I don't know which trees are to be removed. It's hard for me to tell. What about the vegetation and trees that are close to our property line? Is that contemplated to be removed or not?
So the trees along the property line are proposed to remain. There are 2 trees that are within the footprint of the proposed building. So they're 35 feet and more from your property line that are proposed to be removed. But the existing vegetation that lines the property line is proposed to stay.
Mhm.
Anything
Okay. Yeah, we have, the reason why we were asking if any of your committee members had come to our property is that, you know, we just completed building a cottage that we plan to retire in when we can't go up and down our stairs any longer. This is Marlene Co. Are you all still there?
We're here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hear you.
Is, you know, we went through, you know, our whole thing with site and architecture and everything, and we actually had to lower our property, the cottages that we were building by 1.5 feet. We also had to strike off the construction of a cupola on our 2 structures because the neighbors were going to, quote, see them, which they can't see them because, you know, they've, you know, the vegetation has grown up anyway that was already existing. But
The point is that we had to sink our structures into the ground, which means that because of the constraints imposed by the committee at the time that we did our additions, we now will have more of an obstructed view as a consequence of this construction, which we had not anticipated.
and so that's why we were wanting, you know, we think that the committee members should come and see what the view is that I'm going to be looking at when I'm 80 years old, which, you know, is going to be, you know, a house, not the valley. And and we did what we, you know, we followed all the rules of the Site and Architecture Committee, you know, back when we were doing our stuff, and we would appreciate the consideration of your current members to do the same. Because you did it for, you know, with our neighbors at the time to listen to their concerns. And so now we're a neighbor and we're voicing our concerns about, you know, our view being certainly obstructed now.
Okay, thank you guys very, very much for your comments. Ms. Perkins, is there any issue with respect to placement of the story poles in a timely manner at this project?
No, we did receive certification from the engineer that verified the installation of the story poles, and they were installed on September 13th.
Okay. I'm going to ask if
Not.
if we could mute the polls for a moment, and let's bring back Mr. Shayer, I think it is, if I'm saying his name correctly. And I have a single question for him, if we can do that. Mr. Shayer, can you speak to us for 1 more minute? I apologize.
No, not at all. I'd be happy to answer any
All
questions.
right, you've heard the concerns of the Coles. We'd love to have a happy community where everybody's pleasant. And I also know that there are time constraints with respect to this time of year and getting a construction permit and having your project move forward. I'm curious whether your clients would entertain postponement of this matter to our November meeting in light of the Coles concern and an opportunity to kind of talk with them about perhaps resolving any concerns they might have.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for the owner, but I think we're looking for a decision tonight. And the reason is, you know, from our perspective, we, like you said, followed all the rules. Our building complies with all the objective standards of the underlying zoning. You know, in our position, if you can't see the story poles with the vegetation and we're not removing that vegetation, then, that is the view that you're going to be left with. And we selectively chose not to remove that vegetation to minimize tree removals as part of this project. I did have a chance to speak with the owner. I know he had met with neighbors here, and I think I was under the impression that the ADU that they were talking about is towards the back of the property, where we are proposing some mitigation trees. Now, I think it would be possible for us to find alternative locations for those trees, but without understanding kind of where their primary view corridor of concern is, I don't really know where that is relative to the site plan. This is the first I've heard of it, but we would be able to move mitigation trees. That would be something that.
Okay. No, I appreciate your comments and I appreciate your candor. Thank you. All right, Coz, I'll give you one more chance here. Anything else you want to say to us before we engage in a discussion about this project, unless there's other public members of the public that want to speak on it?
Can you, okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Thank
Okay.
you.
First of all, the story poles did not go up on the 13th of September. They went up on the weekend of the 17th and the 18th. We left for a meeting out of town, both of us, on the 21st. We came back briefly for a day and then we left the country. So the timing of this was really horrific for us being warned about this. So the story poles did not go up as planned. That is wrong. We were there. We heard the construction basically on a Friday and a Saturday, which was not the 13th of September, number one.
Actually, our neighbors told us.
Actually, our neighbors told us. And then we kind of figured it out. So the other concern is, while the presence of that, we have two concerns. One about how the property will look from our main house and our backyard, and those concerns are somewhat allayed by the fact that that vegetation and those trees will stay. But our primary concern, as echoed by my wife, is that there's a corner of the property that extends way beyond the existing property that blocks our valley view from our ADU. And we think that it's fair for the Site and Architecture Committee to come into our ADU and see the impact of that, how that would be regards to where the story poles are.
Because we built this ADU specifically for us to age in place here on our own property. I mean, we lived here for over 27 years now. And we specifically built these because our main house has stairs that will not be able to be navigated by us as we age. So this was specifically built for this purpose, for us to be able to live here for hopefully another 20 years. So no one has, come to look and see how this house is going to impact that one view that we have from our ADU.
All right. Any other comments from the Coz?
Well, the only thing is to say is that view is impacted even more so by the fact that our neighbors had forced us through your committee to lower sink these properties down lower into the ground by several feet, which has caused us, lots of concerns and problems because, not only does it impact the view, but we had to have a sewage pump we ordinarily would need to have that's failed on us, and we've got a great expense.
Failed on us 2-3 times.
And so, we feel like, what's good for the goose is good to the gander. This decision doesn't have to be rendered today. The story poles did not go up as planned. We had very little time to really contemplate this whole thing. And we are the most impacted neighbors by this project. And we think that fairness is in order here.
Okay, thank you both very much for your time tonight and bringing stuff to our attention. We appreciate it.
Thank you for considering it.
Anybody else from the public that wants to speak on this particular project, if you could use the raise hand feature for us, please. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion of our meeting in relationship to this item on our agenda, item 1, and circle back to the commissioners for some guidance here. I appreciate the Coles concerns. The fact that they haven't looked at the plans online is problematic for me. But I am concerned about the story poles maybe not going up in a timely manner. And if, you know, I am appreciative of the fact that they were out of the country. But in fairness to the applicant, they shouldn't be held hostage because somebody's making travel plans. So those are my preliminary thoughts, and I really welcome as many thoughts as you guys can articulate about how to handle this circumstance. Heather, go ahead.
This is my raised hand feature. In the past, we have made accommodations for people in this, well, not this exact circumstance, but if Diana were okay, Ms. Perkins were okay with us adding an additional meeting just to quickly discuss, we could get out there, see their point of view, and hold a special meeting to resolve this in a timely manner so they don't have to wait all the way till the November meeting, if the commission were up for that and if Ms. Perkins were amiable to that as well. And you can say no, Heather, then we're not doing that. Totally fine with me.
Heather, I had the same thought.
And Ms. Sharma?
So my only, I guess my question is, you know, given the concern that the neighbors have brought up about, you know, the view getting blocked, my question is like, if this is based on objective standards, like, is there anything that we can, you know, that's even on the table that we can actually change about this, right? The setbacks have been met, the trees are not being removed, and then usually whenever we have this case where there's a view you know, a concern or a privacy concern, we usually recommend vegetation, etc., and that's staying in place anyway. So I guess my concern is really, yes, we can go there and we can, you know, see how this impacts the neighbor, but really, is there any mitigation that we can propose because of that? I'm not clear on that.
Patrick, I'm sorry, Allison, go ahead.
Well, Sharma's point, one thought I had is the co's are concerned with the view from their ADU. I don't know the total square footage they have on their property. As you put larger structures on a property, you are going to naturally block more views. The proposed home design follows the contour of the land, so it does stick up, you know, unusually high or anything. So to allow people maximum enjoyment of their property, if it's a reasonable square footage, they may or may not be able to not impede the view. It's just sort of the nature. As the structures get bigger, you're going to impede views, especially if you have both neighbors, you know, the applicant building larger homes with ADUs. It's maybe unavoidable, but I am willing to, you know, dial in and consider it in a couple weeks if other people are available.
I'd like to make a further point to your point with the ADUs. I mean, under the current laws now with California with ADUs, anybody could build an ADU 4 feet from the property line and obstruct anybody's view without any discretionary review. It is just allowed. There's no
Correct.
questions asked. So I feel like as California has impeded our ability as a commission to control stuff like this, it's in a way a moot point. If they meet the objective standards by the city for everything, then I mean, I kind of see Pallavi's point of view. What if we postpone it? What difference is it going to make per se if they've met the criteria for the planning portion of the project?
Thank you, Heather. All good points. Patrick, did you have anything that hasn't?
I would just say that it seems to me, and I kind of try to just, you know, bottom line things. It seems to me like there was a lack of attention to it, the issue to begin with, by the COs, as far as I'm concerned. I also think that there, you know, the fact that the view is being blocked is something that would be of concern to them 20 years from now or whatever, how many years from now. But the fact is that the building that's being put in is meets all of the requirements. And so I feel like it's something that, you know, we all have to deal with in our neighborhoods. And so That's my thought.
No, there's a part of me that has the same philosophy. Let me just ask, because Heather's suggestion, I think, is a good one, and there seems to be at least some support for it with other commissioners. Ms. Perkins, if we were to specially agendize this item, how difficult is that for staff, and would there even be an opportunity to do that? Say, and I'm talking about something on short notice, like 2 weeks from now, so that the applicant is not prejudiced any more than it has to be.
My suggestion would be to be on the safe side to allow enough time for the two property owners, to discuss the issues and any potential modifications to the plans, and for the applicant's architect to be able to prepare revised plans, for staff to prepare and publish a revised staff report. I would say we could probably have a special meeting on October 27th, which would be 1 week before the next regular meeting.
All right, thank you, Ms. Perkins, very much.
Steve, can I ask a question? We're not talking about making any changes to the plans. We're just talking about giving the commission an opportunity to go out to the coast property, look at it from their point of view, to take that into consideration when we make a ruling, right?
That was my understanding. But there may be, as a result of these communications, as Ms. Perkins points out, there may be a need for amending certain aspects of the plans.
But I think in that case, then it gets continued to another meeting. That's just how it normally works. If there's an issue, it would be moved to the following meeting or whenever they can get their plans revised and put in. I feel like they're two separate issues.
Understood. Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we continue this matter until October 27th for a specially agendized meeting to afford commissioners an opportunity to visit the Coast property and for the applicant and Coast to communicate regarding perceived sight lines in relationship to the new application. Is there a second?
I can second the motion.
Okay, Ms. Perkins, can you please do a roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Booker,
Nope.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
No.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Chair White.
Oh gosh, it had to come to me. All right, Coz, I'm giving this to you. Make good use of my time. Tell me we didn't waste it on you, please. And please reach out to the applicant. And Mr. Chair, I apologize to your clients. With all due respect to them, this really isn't terribly efficient. And Coz, all of this stuff is available online. You need to look at it and have your stuff together when you meet with Mr. Chair, and have your stuff together when we reach out and come meet on your property to look at this. All right, we're going to move on in our agenda. We're going to move to item number 2. 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all related to the Seaborn Court project. And so based on my need for recusal on that matter, Ms. Harrington, congratulations, you are now chair.
Thank you.
I will disappear and come back for the end of the meeting. Thank you, folks.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Ms. Perkins, do you want to introduce item number 2?
Yes, thank you. This is a site development permit and a tree removal permit application for the construction of a new 3,375 square foot single-story house at 16215 Seaborn Court. The application does include a removal of 2 trees on this new lot. And this was part of a 4-lot subdivision that was approved by the City Council in October of 2020. And this is the application for the new house on lot 1, which has its side yard fronting on Los Gatos Saratoga Road. And we did also receive an email from the adjacent property owner to this lot 1 today. And I will read that email into the record right now. It says, as stated in our last email dated September 26, 2020, regarding the property development at 18081 Saratoga Los Gatos Road, now renamed as Seaborn Court, most of our original major issues have been addressed. However, the issue that continues to stand out is the city of Monte Sereno deems the necessity of a sound wall that runs almost the length of the property line between lot 1 and our property. Once again, there is no changes made regarding this decision. It would be greatly appreciated if some type of a condition be added to consider the aesthetics, perhaps stone veneer, etc., for a sound wall running approximately 8 feet outside our windows. Considering the review by the Site and Architectural Commission scheduled to meet October 6, we express our support for the 3 site development permits and tree removal permits on Seaborn Court. And it is signed by the property owners at 18113 Saratoga Los Gatos Road. And that concludes my comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. This is the portion where we have the applicant or an agent for the applicant introduce the project. Is anybody wishing to speak on that? Let me figure out, raise your hand and we will unmute you if you would like to speak on behalf of this project. So, okay, I see. Can you Dave, can you unmute him or do I unmute him? I see that Scott Zuetta has his hand raised. Is that?
And we have
Oh, there he
unmuted him, so
goes.
he should be able to
Okay,
speak.
perfect. Okay, go ahead, Scott. Thank
Good
you.
evening, commissioners. My name is Scott Zezweda. I'm with D&Z Design Associates. We are the designers for the Seaborn Court project. We have reviewed the staff report and agree with the findings that Diana had in her report, and we are here to for any questions that you may have for us.
Okay, I'm wondering if you can go ahead and speak to the neighbor who had written in about the sound wall that runs the length of their property on lot 1.
Right.
Discussing.
Okay, so yeah, I saw that email this morning too, and so that sound wall has been there since the subdivision was approved. However, I wasn't involved at that time, but my experience has been that, you know, we all use the word wall, but that could be a wood fence with the criteria that would meet the decibel levels of an ordinary sound wall. I think that the neighbor and the discussions that I have been privy to would prefer to see something more in a wood fence or kind of a picket type fence, but I believe that the city wanted us to provide some type of sound barrier because of how close we are to Highway 9.
Right, but you're saying that you can get that same sound wall criteria with a wood type fence?
Absolutely. I've done it before in several different jurisdictions.
Okay. Commissioners, do any of you have questions for Mr. I'm going to mess your last name up,
That's
so I'm just
okay.
going to call you Scott, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Do any of the other commissioners have a question for the architect? Nobody. I'm wondering if the neighbor that wrote in the letter is in the audience, and if they would like to tell us whether they would be okay with a wood fence option. I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I'm going to assume they are not within the audience. We'll move on. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this agenda item? please raise your hand. Okay. Annette Seaborn, you already unmuted, I guess. Can we unmute Annette?
Oh, hi, this is Annette Seaborn. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello, commissioners. I just want to let you know I did speak to the neighbor, and they have kind of a grape stake type fence that they really enjoyed and wanted to keep. So we're going to work really hard to make sure they're happy to get the material that they want. We don't see any problems with meeting whatever it is that they're looking for. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioners,
welcome.
do you have any questions for Ms. Seaborn? Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this project? Okay, we'll bring this back to the commission. Commissioners, who wants to start? I think I'll start with this. I think that we need to put some sort of wording into this, that the issue with the sound wall is worked out with the neighbor at, I wrote down the address. I did not write down the address, but I think we need to put that into that issue is raised, because it is a lot. If it's only 8 feet from the person's house to look at a fence that's not of their choice. So whatever we decide, I feel like that should be part of our ruling.
I agree with that. I had a kind of a concern about the environmental impact. Just the number of trees that are coming out. I understand why they have to come out to fit the structures, but we'll be losing a lot of trees. And I didn't know if they considered solar or anything to mitigate the environmental impact, and if that's something that we can suggest.
That's not, solar is something that our commission would not have jurisdiction over. We can suggest, I mean, they have a pretty extensive landscape plan. The things we can suggest are like size of box trees that we have to come in to replace the trees that are being removed. Those types of things. But as far as solar goes, that's not, the state of California has very strict energy guidelines to begin with. And I believe we're getting close, if we're not there, that they would have to provide solar anyway with a new home. Is that right, Ms. Perkins?
Yes, the standard, well, yes and no, I guess. The standard energy code requirement is to require photovoltaic panels on a new house. However, there are other energy offset options that a designer can choose. For example, more efficient windows, more efficient insulation, that through the energy model would gain the same level of energy savings.
And the Title 24 for California is very stringent, and I feel like that takes care of our energy part of the environmental impact. So as far as the commission's jurisdiction, it would be, we could require bigger trees or more trees or things like that, if that makes sense.
Thank you for that.
Anybody else? Nobody else has any comments? So let's talk about, are we in favor of approving the application as presented, commissioners?
If I may, Vice Chair Harrington,
Yes.
Can you please just clarify the opening of the public hearing to confirm if there were any more attendees who might be interested in speaking?
Okay, yeah, sure. I thought we'd closed the public hearing. Sorry, let me go back to. Oh, yes, there is. I see you are correct. There's one more person. So we will go ahead and open up the public hearing again and let Alban, I'm not even going to try your last name, Dulet.
It's
if you
Alban
would go
Douillet.
ahead. Okay, very French. Okay, please, if you
Yeah, very
would go
French.
ahead and speak.
Hi, I'm the neighbor east of the property. I've met Annette Seaborn and we discussed the layout of the trees. I just want to say that I have no objection in terms of what's happening there. We discussed the height of the trees along the fence with my property, and discussed that the height meet a certain standard in terms of providing privacy from the second floor of the house and blocking the view there, but not being too high that it would block the sun from, on the property. So not something too big either. So I don't have any questions about this. I just don't know if it's something that we want to capture in those in the notes or not. But apart from that, no objection on my side.
Absolutely. This is the time to capture that into the notes and make sure that we've addressed everybody's concerns. So you are on Highway 9?
No, I'm on Arley Drive.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're going to be to the next. So we're just discussing the first lot 1, which faces Highway 9 right now. So come back, because we have 2 more to discuss, and we will discuss that, because that is one of the things when I went through the plans that I do want to make sure that we address. So hang tight, and we will address it with lot 2 and 3. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else before we close the hearing, public hearing? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Okay, back to the commissioners. Do you guys each want to give me some feedback? So are we in agreement that we are okay with this project as presented, with the caveat that the fence, the sound wall issue is worked out between the neighbor, and we should call out the address of the neighbor? Diana, if you could provide the address of the neighbor again, just so when we make our ruling, we call out exactly where that fence lies. Could you, Diana, give us the street address of the neighbor that wrote the letter?
Yes, their street address is 18113 Saratoga Los Gatos Road.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking is we approve it as presented with the addition that the sound wall between 18113 Saratoga Los Gatos Road and lot 1, that they work out what the material is and come to an agreement that can be, they can work it out with staff, city staff, for approval on that. Does that sound okay to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my proposal. Does anyone want to second it? I don't want to say it again.
I'll second the proposal as stated.
Okay, thank you. So Diana or Ms. Perkins, would you like to do a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Harrington.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, so then moving on to agenda item number 3. Ms. Perkins, would you like to introduce that one?
Yes, thank you. So this is lot 2 of the same overall site on Seaborn Court. And this application is for a new 3,362 square foot house at 16219 Seaborn Court. This proposal does include a removal of 7 trees that are on what is now this newly created lot. This property or the proposal from Seaborn Court does appear as a 1-story house. However, due to a technicality, the lower level does not meet our zoning code's definition for a basement. So it is technically a 2-story house with the walkout lower level in the back that contains an accessory dwelling unit. And I did not receive any comments related to this lot, but I would be happy to answer any questions that there might be.
I have an initial question. So looking at, sorry, I have a cold, sorry, and I'm coughing. Looking at the site plan, the neighbor that we just discussed on lot 1 with the sound wall issue, there, it looks to me that their property abuts just for a few feet this same lot 2. Hold on. Sorry about that. It looks like it abuts the property. I may have to go on to someone else for a second. Oh, sorry. It looks to me that it abuts that same property that has concerns about the sound wall. Can you guys excuse me for 1 second to get?
Yeah.
Sorry. Right back.
I'm glad she's here where Chairperson White had to recuse himself. It's good to have her, even if she doesn't feel perfect.
You're next in line.
It's difficult to remember all the procedural steps.
Well, you had to do it once already, so.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
so
intense.
sorry. So sorry. So back to
I
my
was just
question.
saying thank you so much for being here, even though you don't feel perfect.
Sorry. Still coughing.
So perhaps the discussion on the sound wall and the look of the sound wall, you know, it should address lot 1 and lot 2.
Right,
Is there
so-
more than one neighbor
Well-
that would be concerned?
Well, that's my
existing
question
neighbor?
for Diana. It looks to me like the lot in the, looking at lot 2 in the upper left-hand corner, it looks like there's just a few feet from that neighbor that had the concerns. Assuming that that sound wall goes all the way down, or does it end at the corner of that lot? Could you just verify where the sound wall ends, Ms. Perkins?
Yes, as part of the previously approved tentative map and environmental review that was completed as part of that, the noise concern was for lot 1. So the requirement would be for
Okay.
the sound wall to end at lot 1.
Okay, but lot 1, so the sound wall though, doesn't it keep the property that has the concerns, there's still a little piece that abuts lot 2, correct? So I see a line, I'm looking at the grading and drainage plan.
It
and I
might
think-
be 8.5 feet. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, so does that sound wall just stop at the corner of lot 1? And then it leaves this weird gap for the people at 111811, whatever the address is. Hold on. I wrote it down and then I buried it. Anyway, where does the sound wall end? Does it just end at the corner? Or is that fair to that neighbor? I don't know. That was just a question I had. That they have a sound wall that ends at the corner and then they have this little weird 8-foot section that's some other material. I was just curious how that worked.
So yes, the requirement for the sound wall ended at lot 1 of
Okay.
the new subdivision. But the commissioners can certainly include a condition to match the fencing materials.
Okay.
You know, through to the neighbor at 18113 Saratoga Los Gatos Road.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there someone who'd like to speak on behalf of this project? Okay, again, Scott, if you guys could unmute him. Okay, go ahead and speak. You're unmuted, Scott.
Yes, I'm Scott Zazweta with DNZ Design Associates. We would extend that fence over to make sure that everything is contiguous regardless. So, but we, again, on the report that Diana did, we agree with everything that she has in it and have no issues with it. I did want to bring up, I wanted to make sure that Diana did receive the email from Catherine Kirsch, one of the neighbors, in support of our project. I didn't hear you read that into the record.
No, I did not receive an email.
It should have been on October 4th. I have just a forward of the email.
Can Diana, is it possible to read that into the record if you did not receive it?
No, I just wanted to see if she did receive it or not.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks like it was sent to her.
Can you just tell us where that neighbor resides in relation to the project?
It is the, I believe it is the neighbor along right next to, well, they front Viewfield Road, so they're right next to us on lot 2.
Okay.
Basically where the fence we were talking is we're gonna continue that piece for the neighbor next to us. I think that's their lot right there.
Okay. I'm wondering if you can just give us a high overview of the landscape plan. I know you are the architect, but I'm sure you're familiar enough because that's probably one of the biggest concerns. We had this project as a recommendation item to City Council back when the subdivision was split, and it was very, very controversial with the neighbors that live downhill on Arley. And we'd like to be very cognizant of the fact that these homes are very uphill to them and their privacy is restricted. And I've seen that you've put a lot of screening plants, but I would like it called out into the record what the screening plants are and what the measures have, because it looks like you've taken a lot of time and effort to make it so that the neighbors on Arley are screened from.
Yes, for sure. We have taken a lot of effort in reducing the impact to our neighbors and also the visual impact of them as well. We don't have a problem with adding the 7 new 24 box trees. Currently on here right now, as counted on lot 2, there's 5, and we're just going to have our landscape architect add a couple more. The screening from our neighbor to the back is along Harley. We've spoke with them, and that's one of the elevations I showed to you on page 2 of the set, and I'm showing an elevation from 18080 Arley Drive. We were trying to indicate to them and show them how the structure would be screened. They actually sit lower to us, so they were happy with the fact that we had the screening and that we were not really going to be impacting them so much. So. But yeah, we will definitely be adding a little bit more screening onto the property as well.
Unmute. Commissioners, did any of you have any questions for the architect?
In terms of, again, it's a landscape question, but I notice around the fire truck turnaround, there's lawn, because I guess people like a little lawn in front of their home. Could there be trees added there?
Absolutely. I was definitely, Commissioner, I appreciate the question. We were looking at that earlier and just making, counting our trees before the meeting. And we can certainly add a few more trees in the front of there too, in the front of the property as well. Not only on lot 2, but on lot 1 and on lot 3 as well.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Patrick, no?
No,
No.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's, are there any audience members that would like to speak on or have any questions about the project? I don't see any hands raised. Anybody? No? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Okay, commissioners, thoughts? I can start. I think definitely we need to make part of our ruling that section, you know, that little short section, so it's all consistent for the neighbor. The fence is all one material. It doesn't stop at lot one. It continues all the way over, so that then the neighbor down below with the sound wall that's looking at it sees one continuous fencing type material. I feel like the landscape screening is adequate for the neighbors, and they've done a good job placing trees and landscape in appropriate places to mitigate the impact on the neighbors. Anybody else?
I think the structures are quite attractive. I appreciate the design. I would just like to see a few more trees perhaps adjacent to the turnaround there.
So I always love more trees. My concern is we see on the other end of this in this commission where they have to come get tree removal permits. Where in small areas, because the front yard is quite small because of the angles of the lot, that we end up seeing a few years later as tree removals when they start uprooting driveways and flat work on the property. So if we do want to see more trees, they need to be small landscape type trees. I feel like they don't necessarily need more trees, but that's my opinion. Anybody else?
Something small just to soften the front of the structures. That was what I was thinking.
Well, so we have, let's go back and visit the landscape plan. It's always so hard to look at these tiny little plans. They have a tree, they have a acer. I can't see because I kind of wrote something over it. But there's one, if you can see the tree drip line canopy outlined. So there's one major tree and the rest of them are kind of shrubs around there. I feel like that's probably all that can fit in that space. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
I think the replacement, the number of tree replacements is adequate given the space. Yeah.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the plan as submitted with the exception that the fence, the sound wall fence that we just approved on lot 1 continues on so that the neighbor, again, and I wrote down the address and now I can't find it. The neighbor at 181, help me out, Diana.
18113.
18113 Saratoga Los Gatos Road has a continuous fence that they are looking at on their side yard of their property. Would anyone like to second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Perkins, would you like to do a roll call?
Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Harrington.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4. Ms. Perkins, would you like to introduce that one?
Yes, thank you. This is a site development permit and tree removal permit application for Lot 3 on the newly formed Seaborn Court, which is 16221 Seaborn. And this application or this proposal includes a new 3,497 square foot single-story house with a basement that includes an accessory dwelling unit. This proposal does include the removal of 9 trees, and staff does recommend approval of this project. There was just a minor overage in the allowed structural coverage on the plans that were submitted. So staff does recommend a condition that the structural coverage be reduced so that it doesn't exceed 40%, which when we calculated, I think it comes out to roughly 75 square feet. And that concludes the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll start with the question. So they have to reduce 75 square feet. That's kind of actually a lot. I guess we don't need to, as a commission, see that 75-foot reduction in a set of plans before we approve it. I guess maybe the architect can come back and tell us how that would be reduced.
Yes, I had spoken with the architect about this before the meeting, and it could be, it doesn't have to be a reduction in the square footage of the house.
Oh, it's just impervious coverage?
Just structural coverage. So it could include patio covers.
Okay. Okay. So with that, we will let the architect introduce the item and tell us how he plans on achieving that 75-foot reduction. You guys can unmute him. Yeah, you're
Hello,
unmuted.
Commissioner. This is Scott Zezweta of D&Z Design Associates for Lot 3 of Highway Ventures. Yeah, I did speak with this this comment that came up with Diana. How we're going to achieve this is by taking the outdoor covered living area off the back is fairly expansive. We're just going to pull the back wall in 3 feet, the pillars in 3 feet, and that'll get us down the 75, and that'll put us at a 38.14% coverage number after we do that.
Thank you. That helps a lot to understand that. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Okay. Alban Due, I think.
Getting closer.
Yeah, getting closer. If you would tell us your concerns now, is the appropriate time.
Yeah, so just for context, I just moved in the property about 9 months ago, and the things I like in Monte Sereno in general is the number of trees and green everywhere. So I appreciate keeping as many trees as possible while building the structure. My concern is, I guess like everybody else, the view and the privacy. And discussing with Annette Seaborn, we talk about the trees along the property line, and we reach sort of an agreement to have the trees tall enough so that the view from the second floor of the new house on lot 3 is blocked and doesn't see the backyard on my lot, but not too tall that it goes beyond that and generates too much shade, because the sun is on the other side of the trees and will generate lots of shade on our side. So that's the only concern, but it seems to be addressed, and if we can just capture that, then I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this application? With that, I don't see any other hands raised. We're going to turn it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioners. I looked up the main tree they have is the Prunus Carolini. See, I'm really good at like pronouncing things. Carolinian. And they range from like 15 feet at the lowest up to, I think 25 or 30 feet. So I feel like, and there are quite a number of them planted along that back fence. So I feel like the privacy has been respected of the neighbor, and we can leave it between them to work out pruning or whatever that in the future that doesn't make too much shade for the neighbor. Do you guys have any other thoughts or concerns on this project?
The only question that I really have is the replacement trees that are scheduled to go back in. And I don't know if I'm missing something, but is there a landscape plan that shows where those will be planted or will those be placed?
Yes, well, if you look at, they have a landscape plan on L1. And
Okay.
L2 gives them the removal and the planting of the tree disposition plan, and the plant
Okay.
legend are both listed on L2.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, I've been looking at that. It wasn't clear on exactly which.
Well, it might be worth just stating for the record to have the architect come back up and kind of walk us through what the replacements are for trees. Why don't we go ahead and do that? Scott, would you mind coming back on just to walk us through what the replacements are? Tell us what the trees that are being removed and what the replacement for those would be, if you would. If you can unmute him, that'd be great. Okay, Scott, you're unmuted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I could go through the trees that are being removed. We'll do that first, and then I can show you what the replacements are after that. So we are removing. Okay, and on the page they have a tree. There's a number next to each of these trees from the original arborist report that's in Diana's report as well. So tree number 133 is being removed. It's within the shell of the proposed residence. That is a coast live oak. It's to be removed. There's tree number 34, which is it's also within the shell of the house. It's tree number 134. It's a silk tree to be removed. And then let's see, tree number 135 is in the driveway, and that's a coast live tree that'll be removed. And then tree number 136 is in the entry, near the entry porch, and that's a silk tree. And tree number 137, which is just to the front of the house, is a coast live oak tree to be removed. Tree number 138 is another coast an oak, this is coast live oak tree. And tree number 139 is in the rear next to the stairs, and that's a European birch. Tree number 140 is in the kind of the rear of the house, but within the shell of the house, and that's a coast live oak. And then tree number 141 is within the shell of the house toward lot 2, but within the shell of the house, and that's a coast live oak. Now the new trees that are proposed is, if we're just going to come from the front of the house, front of the property near the street, there's a Quercus. I'm going to butcher some of these too, because I don't speak Latin very well.
Make me feel good. Go for it.
Okay. Quercus agrifolia. We're gonna do one of those. And then, let's see here, where is the next one? I guess we're gonna all have a little bit of learning here with the Latin. Let's see here. Where's the other? I counted 4. Okay, so then there's another one. In the front of the house, there is a 1 Acer Palamitium.
You can give us the common names, it's fine. The
Yeah, that's
common
a
names are-
Japanese maple, right?
Yeah, the common names are written right next to it. It's a Japanese maple.
Yeah, Japanese maple. Okay.
Because we know the common names more than the Latin names anyway.
I'll look right here where she has it here. Yeah, let's see, there's 9, is that 9 right there? In the front. Can't find that one here. Okay. Yeah, I can't find that one on the list here. I have to look it up real quick. Here it is. Is that it? See how it is. There. Should be 9 of them right there. Oh, that's the thing there, okay. Let's see here. So we're keeping some trees here, so let's see here then. As I counted, we're definitely gonna have to add a few more box trees than what she's showing here, though.
These are just small trees.
Yeah, those are small.
So which ones are small? Are the Toyon? So I'm looking at this and it's just such tiny print. It's hard to read because we have
Yeah.
the size of plans.
Unfortunately, I have the same problem. I printed out a small set as well.
I guess I could blow it up. Anyway, do the best you can.
Okay.
So do you feel that we need a few more trees on the site? And if so, where would you suggest
Yeah,
putting them?
so yes, we do. I think we need 4 more trees, which I was going to work with my landscape architect to fit around the rear of the property to help with a little bit more screening for the neighbor to the rear of us.
Okay. And what size box would you propose? And do you have
Those
an
would be
idea of what the species?
Yeah, they would be the 24-inch. And species there. We had talked about doing a combination of Japanese maples and red maples when I had mentioned it to her once before, so.
Okay.
We don't want anything that's gonna get too big out back
Right.
there.
Because it's going to block the view of the neighbor below the mountains, right?
Well, and I don't want, I wanted
Shade.
to have his privacy, but I don't want him to end up in have a ton of shade in his backyard. I don't think he wants that either, so.
Well, PG&E will come out and top them for you.
Yeah.
Sorry for my joke.
Maples don't want to be topped.
I'm
Yeah.
joking because you know if PG&E comes over, it just levels them off.
Just
I
cut the
was
tree.
joking.
Yeah,
Sorry.
In terms of privacy, Japanese maples are deciduous, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so you're proposing 4 more trees, a combination of 24-inch box, Japanese maples and red maples.
Yes,
2 of each, I'm guessing,
Yes.
along the back fence. Okay.
right.
What is a toyon? I could look it up, I guess.
That's a California native. It's like a big shrub.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a big shrub. That's how it was described to me by the landscape architect as well.
okay, because there's a lot of them,
I'm pretty sure they do well in drought.
which is what we need these days. I appreciate that there are a lot of, or some live oaks going back in, because I
Yeah.
think that is the beauty of the city that we live in, that we have so many oaks and native trees. So thank you for adding those. Any other questions for the architect? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing again and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, do you have any comments or thoughts on lot 3?
Mhm.
Definitely nice that we're adding those extra trees, because just going through like even these last 3 items, right? It's just a bit of a sticker shock, like the amount of trees that are coming out. So it's nice to see that
It
they're
is, yeah.
getting additional trees going in.
There was a former commissioner who used to call it tree murder when we take out these big native trees, but there's no other way to build on the property. So I understand each and every tree that's being proposed to be removed. And I appreciate that they are putting a lot of trees back in.
Right.
Anybody else have any comments or concerns?
Mm. No,
Anybody want to make a motion besides me?
I'll motion to approve based on the addition of the trees that have been called out and the 4 additional ones that the architect mentioned.
So let's just be specific. So he called out 4 more 24-inch blocks. So
Right.
2 of the Japanese maple and 2 of red maple.
So there would be 13 total that would be going back in.
Yes. Well, is that right? 13, 4, 3. I can't tell what's a shrub and what's a tree, so I'm not going to count. Would anybody else like to second the motion? I'll second it. Diana, Ms. Perkins, would you like to do a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Booker,
Yes?
Commissioner Harrington, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Vice Chair Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ziedler.
Yes.
Okay, the project passes. We will move on to item number 6. Ms. Perkins, would you introduce that, our last agenda item for us?
Yes, thank you. This application for a tree removal permit is on the separate lot that will be the new actual street of Seaborn Court. And so that's why it is presented tonight as a separate application because it is on a separate lot. And there are 4 trees that are located in the footprint of the new street that are proposed for removal. There isn't room on this technical lot to replant those 4 trees because it is all pavement for the road. So the staff recommendation includes to replace the trees within the 3 residential lots on this site. And that concludes the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Perkins, are there any trees that, won't lift pavement and could kind of arch out over that driveway street?
There are different types of trees. There are different types of root barriers that could also, be placed as the trees are planted to, kind of guide the roots away from certain areas. I think the details would be better answered by the applicant's landscape architect.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Perkins? With that, we'll turn it over to, do we have a representative? Is it Scott again that's going to speak to this portion, or is there somebody else? Scott has his hand up, so if we can unmute him, and we'll turn the mic back to you.
Well, I'm wondering, are you tired of me yet?
No, are you tired of us?
No, not at all. So obviously we'll spread the trees amongst the 3 lots. I think definitely lot 1 could probably use a couple more trees put into it. And then I can speak to my landscape architect about trees that could be in the landscape strip along the Seaborn Court as well, adjacent to our neighbor property. And just discuss with them the selection of a type of tree that could be attractive but won't damage the road later on.
That would be very much appreciated. I mean, it's along a scenic corridor, and it would be really nice that if we can get as many native looking species planted without uprooting streets and sidewalks and whatnot that are going in pavement areas. So thank you for that. Any commissioners, do you have any questions for the architect? I'll take that as a no. Do we have anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this permit submission? No, it looks like nobody else would like to speak, so we will turn it back to the commission. Commissioners? Thoughts?
I think if they can find trees, I don't know that point, if you put the wrong tree and it's destructive, then they come back to the commission and want to remove it. But I would just encourage them to think about whether there are trees that can soften that access road, fire truck turnaround, and the fronts of the buildings, because it is on a scenic corridor, and also just the heat that comes off when you have a bunch of asphalt in front of the homes. I think it'll just be more pleasant aesthetically, and if there's some bigger foliage in that area, because most of the large trees, it looks to me, are the perimeter, the back perimeter and the sides, and not so much in that front area.
Right. Very valid point. Thank you, Allison, for bringing that up. I agree. If we can come up with something that can soften it. My thought is, we've gotten to know the architect so well in this meeting. I think if we propose that the issues and what is to be planted is worked out with staff, that's a fair enough assessment. And I feel like the architect has the best interest of the site and the aesthetics that we're dealing with, a scenic corridor and whatnot. I think he has all that in mind. So I propose, unless someone else would like to, anybody? I propose that we approve the application as submitted with the advice to add as many trees as possible, and that can be worked out with staff. And we'd love to see trees that have a canopy that shades the asphalt area. Does that sound, anybody else want to add anything to it? No? Anybody want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay. Diana, can we do a verbal roll?
Yes, Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharma,
Yes.
Commissioner Ziedler,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Harrington.
Yes. Sorry, got a barking dog. Okay, with that, we are ready to adjourn the meeting for the night. We don't have anything else, Ms. Perkins, do we, on our list?
We don't have any more public hearing items. I don't know if there's any commissioners' comments, and then I did have a couple of
Okay.
items.
And then
Commissioner-
Chair White had talked about rejoining.
Yeah, come on back, Chair White.
I'm here.
Yay, take over.
Commissioners, do you have any comments for tonight?
I just thank you to everybody for having patience with me with butchering names and being kind of half here with not feeling particularly well tonight. So thank you for your patience.
And Heather, thank you I had no idea that I was gonna have that conflict in advance of tonight. So I appreciate you stepping forward, and I know you are ill, and I appreciate you doing that. Ms. Perkins, there's some city planner comments. Let's hear those.
Just one reminder about our joint study session with the City Council to review the draft of the objective design standards. And that is scheduled for October 19th at 6 p.m. So we'll be having a special meeting before the regular council meeting at 7. And that will be on Zoom.
Okay.
Based on this evening's meeting, we will have a special Site and Architectural Commission meeting on October 27th. And I'm going to presume we want to start that at 7 o'clock as we normally do. Please let me know otherwise. And then one other question or feedback, I guess, that I would be looking for from the commission is with the governor's emergency order that allowed fully remote meetings expiring. There is the first item that we took up on the agenda tonight. There is new legislation that will allow for continued remote meetings as long as the emergency health orders are still in place. The governor's state of emergency, which it is still in place at this time, but we are not required to have remote meetings any longer. So it's sort of at the option of the commission if we want to continue remotely or return in person. So again, I don't know if anybody wants to provide some feedback on that now, or you can email me and we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, let me ask, let's hear from everybody. I'm personally a huge proponent of getting back in front of each other. Even if that means I got to wear a mask and I get zits all over my neck again. But I'm curious what other commissioners feel.
I could go either way. I do understand that there are other folks that have concerns about children at home and the infection rates of the variant and all of that. So either way, I'm fine. But I'm an in-people person too. So, or in-person people too. So.
I am as well, but I know, Allison, you have young children, and I would respect whatever you would feel comfortable doing. And I don't know, Flavia, if you have young children as well.
No, my son has been vaccinated, but I was thinking that maybe by January is when we should, that's what I would prefer, is to come back in January and face to face, not anymore for the rest of this year.
I'd be fine with that. I would be okay with in person, but I would definitely wear a mask. It's kind of nice seeing people's mouths and expressions. And in terms of when the little guys will get vaccinated, I've heard some doctors say probably October and November.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it only takes one objection to be, I think, legitimate in our circumstances. So we'll continue with the virtual meetings to the extent we need to, and we'll revisit this at a later meeting. Anything else for us, Diana?
I do not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to adjourn. Thank everybody for their support tonight. And Heather, thanks for taking the reins on. And it was great seeing everybody again. And happy Halloween to all. I'll see you on the 27th, actually.
Yeah.
In costume. Bye.
Will we get any communication before going out to that house, or?
Yeah, I think the Coes, I see Miss McCoe still on the line. Miss Coe, if you could reach out to us through our City of the Monte Sereno email addresses. If you don't have those, please talk to Ms. Perkins about getting those and let us know when a convenient time is for us to come out, and we'll all try and do that.
That'd be helpful.
Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Take care.